Hey guys, it's Brixton here, aka Jade, and this is my second video of the day. And this video is about how the media have wrongly reported the murder of Jo Cox, the MP for somewhere around in West Yorkshire. Okay, so let's get into this. First of all, I would like to give my sincere condolences to her family, especially her husband and her children. And we hope that her soul does rest in eternal peace. And it is a loss, definitely, for her husband and her children. Okay, so let's get into it. The media has not reported this properly. Again, the media hasn't reported this properly, just to put it out there. Now, they've been saying that the murderer, the crazed gunman, Thomas Mayer, shouted Britain first when he did the attack. Now, first things first, let's actually take a step back and let's talk about what happened with the attack. Okay, so we were led to believe that she was walking and she was shot and she was stabbed and this was terrible. Okay, so this actually is not how it happened. What happened was she was in the library where she was taking her local surgery, and what happened was she heard a fight. She saw a fight between two men. She came out, tried to break up the fight, and then she, I don't explain what happened. That happened to her. So it wasn't what we thought. I thought somebody had literally, I'd been so misled by the media. I literally thought that a gunman had stormed into her surgery, shot her. I was literally like, the media had painted it to be something very, very different. And while, of course, if somebody is trying to break up a fight, you should never retaliate that. The fact is, when two men are fighting, who knows what could happen, and that's what I'm saying, who knows what could happen. But of course what happened to her was wrong. So that's the first thing that wasn't reported correctly. Secondly, the shouting Britain first when he pulled the trigger. This did not happen. 3 eyewitnesses have said they did not hear him shout Britain first. Now, if you don't know what Britain first is, they are a campaign to leave the EU. They are, I wouldn't really say they are a right wing, but they are more towards that way. And they are, I think they're quite similar to UKIP. Basically, it has just been a media storm. It has been crazy. The mainstream media has yet again not reported it properly and has scaremongered, fearmongered and hyped this up. So they reported that he said this. It was actually a Labour MP that tweeted this first. And then she later on deleted the tweet. She did not say this. It did not happen. It was not true. It was not said. Okay, so let's get that out of there. So people are trying to say, the media mainly are trying to say that this happened because he was unhappy with her politics and he wanted to leave the EU. And they're trying to say that he was a terrorist and it was an act of terrorism. Well, actually, first of all, what does the word terrorism mean? The fact is, terrorism is bandied about, and basically the word terrorist, to me, and how the mainstream media portray it, is just a word for a person with brown skin who is Muslim. They're the only people who basically get called terrorists. So now this white guy is being called a terrorist, probably the first white guy to be called a terrorist in, I don't know, 20 years. So they're saying it's terrorist, it was right-wing. Basically, he wasn't a member of Britain First. He was never a member of that party. And actually, let's get into it. This man was mentally ill. Okay, he was mentally ill. Now, let's talk about mental health in this country. Let's talk about the fact that David Cameron and his buddies have cut mental health so badly that there are so many mentally ill people walking the freaking streets. Caring the community does not fucking work. You come down to Brixton and you come down at night, you see how many mentally ill people are left to themselves to walk the streets, sometimes half naked, because they don't know what they're doing. Since David Cameron has come into power, there has been a serious lack in and cut in mental health facilities. I'm seeing mentally ill people constantly, all of the time, people who need to be looked after. So that's one of the main things. The poor guy was mentally ill, and the media, instead of treating this for what this is, a horrible death, are politicising it and have decided to ban around the word terrorism, ban the word right-wing, and basically they have used this to their advantage. And I bet they are so happy that this has happened. While they are saying that they're so sorry and their condolences, I bet that David Cameron is fucking so happy. I bet he spent last night up smiling, because this means that the Brexit campaign has been halted. And it has been halted because of all of the propaganda and misinformation surrounding this killer, that it has been halted. The fact is, we should not suppress freedom of information. That is freedom of speech. And the fact is, this has been so misrepresented by the media, particularly the mainstream media and the tabloids, who are scaremongering and fearmongering, and have done that so the Brexit campaign can be halted. And do you know why that is? Because, let's face it, every person I speak to wants to leave the EU. Every person I've spoken to does want to leave the EU, and that is just a fact. So the honest truth is, they're getting scared by this. They were scared that this was going to happen, so they've had to pull the big guns out. No, I am not saying it. This is a false flag. But I'm saying that, one, the establishment are so fucking happy that this has happened, because this has halted and stained the Brexit movement through disinformation. Instead of being reported as it was, a mentally ill man killing a woman, which is very sad and very awful, but instead of it being reported as that, it has been politicized, and the media once again have decided to play politics and not report properly, which I'm absolutely sick of. And the second thing is, I'm just going to call that bullshit. Of course this could be a false flag. Why? I'm not going to censor. This is freedom of speech, and I'm going to be honest with you. While I respect and I'm deeply saddened by a young woman's life being lost, the fact is, people die every single day. This is the honest, God's honest truth. You know, I've got very close family members who died very recently, also at a very young age. I know of a girl who killed herself last week. You know, people do die every day, and we mustn't forget that. We mustn't forget that people do die every day, and unfortunately bad things do happen. But the fact is, I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm going to call out bullshit. This could potentially be a false flag. This is the God's honest truth. The fact is, the media are calling it an act of terrorism. It has happened at an impeccable time. In the same week when the Orlando shootings happened, poor Christina Grimmie got murdered, and now this murder. Is that a coincidence or not? I mean, you decide for yourself, but I am calling out bullshit. I'm calling out the hypocrisy of all the MPs who are, you know, David Cameron and all of the other MPs who are very sorry and saying they're very sorry, but who really don't give a fuck, who never even met her and don't give a fuck. The condolences should be from her family and her friends and her constituencies, not from these MPs who don't give a fuck. And now they're saying that MPs need to be more careful when they do their surgeries. And I'm just like, oh, okay, so is this going to be used for MPs to do less work? Is this going to be used for MPs to actually not come to work on Monday, like just have another free day off? Like, I'm sorry this has happened, but you still need to go to work. You still need to go to your job, because bad things do happen all the fucking time. Now this man, they're calling him a loner and somebody who apparently he had a subscription to a right-wing, far-right South African magazine, which we don't even know if it's true. Like, apparently there's a receipt for it. I mean, how easy is it to create and doctor a receipt online? I mean, that, to me, that means nothing. And why are we addressing the real issue? How did this mentally ill man, again, who was supposed to be, you know, a little bit up there, I just realised that could be offensive. Sorry. Basically, let me just be straight. It's been portrayed as mentally ill, a loner, and of low intellect. So how could this man make a gun? Apparently, he brought a book from America. Yeah, isn't it funny how America's now interlinked in, you know, the gun control? Apparently, he brought a book on how to make a pistol. Now, you're telling me somebody like this is going to be able to make a pistol? Do you know how difficult that is? If not, we're asking, how did he get a pistol? Yes, guns are illegal in Britain, and guns are quite hard to get in Britain if you don't have the right links, especially if you're all the way up north. So how did this man have these connections? How did he build this pistol? This whole thing, it just doesn't make sense. The fact is, people with mental illness, unfortunately, they do commit crimes, and this is a tragedy. But I feel the mainstream media has misled us and is not asking the right questions. How did this man get a pistol? It's very convenient that apparently he brought a handbook from the States. So you know what they're trying to do? They're trying to implicate America into all this, and how America needs to ban guns because somebody apparently got a manual on how to build a pistol, which I just don't believe anyway, because the fact is you can see that shit on the internet, so why would you need to order it online anyway? It just doesn't make any sense. And the fact is, and I'm going quiet here because I just can't believe how awful the mainstream media has been about this. Instead of mourning a loss, they have just used this to play politics and to mislead and brainwash the masses to try and smear the name of not only Britain First. Now, I'm no advocate of Britain First, but I tell you what, I'm an advocate of freedom of speech, okay? And that is very important, and that is what we must protect, even if we don't agree with views that some may think are prejudiced and some may think are racist. Now, I'm not saying Britain First are either of these, because they deny any of these allegations, so I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is, if people have opposing views to us, we must respect them, because freedom of speech is crucial. And David Cameron was quoted to saying, we must respect and look at democracy and value it. Oh, really? You think this is democracy? Because right about now, what I see now is a dictatorship. What I feel like now is I'm in a mother friggin' dictatorship, and I don't know where the fuck to go. You think having 3 poxy fucking parties when there's millions of us in Britain to represent all of us is democracy? Because I see this as a dictatorship. I don't feel like I'm free, and I don't feel like I'm living in a democracy. So David Cameron, you can take your version of democracy and you can go and do this with it. You can stick it up there, because guess what? I'm not interested in anything you have to say, you wanker. The fact is, David Cameron is using this to his advantage as usual, and I'm sure that MPs are going to use this to do less work. Because let's face it, those fuckers are lazy. They really are. Now, just getting back to this actual murder and this, you know, really tragic event, which I am, you know, deeply sad for her family. Because as I say, I've recently lost a loved one myself. And actually, this is horrible. Like, it's horrible. There's no way about it. No matter how somebody dies, it's horrible. Especially when somebody dies young. It's horrible and it's tragic and it's horrible. But the fact is, instead of respecting this, the mainstream media has politicized it. They're playing politics, and they're just doing all the things that I hate and all the things I don't like. The fact is, it's very convenient that this has happened right now. And people can say I'm a tinfoil hat wearer and I'm disrespecting her. I'm not disrespecting her. It seems like she was a very interesting woman who was interested in Syria and interested in charity work and helping people in Syria. So I'm sure that she would want people to investigate what really happened into her murder. This is no disrespect at all. This is investigating to try and find justice for what really happened that day, because the media has lied about it so much to try and desperately stop the people from leaving the EU. It's a desperate bid. Now, this is very convenient that this has happened. One, within this awful week of murders that we've had, and one because the Brexit campaign has received so much publicity and is doing so well. So this is very conveniently that this has happened at this time. There is a possibility that this could be a false flag. There's there's a possibility that this poor man could have been mind controlled. Again, vulnerable, mentally ill, like the Orlando shooter. There is a strong possibility that this man could have been mind controlled to commit this awful crime. That is a very strong possibility. And there's also a possibility that it's not a false flag, but that he was just very mentally ill and she was in the wrong place at the wrong time, which does happen. But here at my channel, I do like to give 2 opinions and 2 views, because the fact is we're entitled to think what we want to think, and we should never apologise for the things that we think, because it's freedom of speech. Isn't that a British value, David Cameron? That's a British value. So what I would say to you guys is just think about this, and I'd like to know your opinion. What do you think? Do you think this is false flag or a very unfortunate event? Let me know. And what do you think about the mainstream media just smearing the campaign, using this opportunity to just go in on the Brexit campaign? Now, I urge you, Brexit, start your campaign back up, because you have nothing to apologise about. You cannot apologise because somebody has committed a murder. We don't know what his political ideologies were, and even if we did, that's got nothing to do with this movement. The fact is, Brexit needs to put an end to this whole. They need to carry on with what they're doing, and people need to start critically thinking. So let me know what you think in the comments below. If you don't know me, my name is Brixton Fatty, aka Jade. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and don't forget to give our Facebook page a like. Thank you so much for watching, and if you like what you see, then subscribe.